My dear Hong Kong friends, it's such a privilege to be here with you today. You have done so many wonderful Zoom workshops and demonstrations, and I'm so pleased to be asked to tell you a little bit about Easter. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Christiane Duckworth. I was chairman and then president of the Hong Kong Flower Club in the 1990s, and I had the most wonderful time while I was with you. I keep saying my flower heart is still in Hong Kong even today. Today I want to show you a little bit about Easter. What does Easter mean to you? Easter is primarily one of the most important religious festivals for the Christian Church. Easter week, or Easter Sunday I should say, is like Chinese New Year, dependent on the moon. And it's usually on the first Sunday after the full moon, after the spring equinox. This year it falls on the 4th of April. But Easter really starts with Palm Sunday, which is the week before Easter. And Jesus came to Jerusalem on a donkey, and the population welcomed him, and they welcomed him with palm leaves. So my first plant material I'm using is a palm leaf, and palm leaves are even used in many churches today to symbolize Palm Sunday. When I was a child, Palm Sunday was actually the Sunday where you were allowed to sleep in. It's funny how certain memories keep coming back when you do it. Now I'm cutting this palm leaf in a way that I was told by Barbara Ray. I'm sure most of you will remember Barbara, who became a very good friend and in many ways my mentor. Before I put this in, I want to show you this piece of driftwood, which was actually found in New Zealand all that many years ago, and I sprayed it black and a little bit of gold. For me, it symbolizes the roughness of the wood of the cross that Jesus was crucified on. He was very well welcomed by the population, but by Friday of that week, he had been tried by the Roman court and was crucified. So this is my cross, and here you have got Euphorbia millii. If you can see more closely, you can see all the thorns on it, because the common name for this is also crown of thorns. Jesus, before he was crucified, was crowned with a crown of thorns. So this is very much symbolic for that. Now if you cut euphorbia, you have to be very careful because it has a sap inside which is poisonous. So don't touch your face or anything. I'm putting the palm leaf in it, helping to the line and to create negative space. And as this wood has got some cracks in it, natural occurring cracks, it also helps to anchor the palm leaf. I have pre-cut this to help speed up a little bit. The third very symbolic material is the Easter lily. It's called Easter lily because it's symbolic for resurrection, as Jesus rose from the dead, as the scriptures had foretold on Easter Sunday. So this is for resurrection, but the lily is also called Madonna lily. And on the resurrection as well as on the crucifixion, Jesus had 3 Marys with him. One of them being his mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, and the other 2 were followers of him. And so I'm using 3 lilies to commemorate their presence. And you know, when it comes to lilies, they do have the stamen inside, and you very carefully should remove the stamen as soon as it opens up, because it will stain the lily as well as your clothes and the tablecloth or whatever. Now, if you get the stamen on you, don't use water. Use a bit of sellotape or powder and brush it off, because if you use water, it just makes things a lot worse. So this is, I cut them a little bit shorter to create a different line, and also of course the importance of each Mary, his mother looking up to his crown. And then I'm also using some of this kalanchoe in order to give it the blood of Jesus. Now, the lily is used symbolically because apparently in Gethsemane, the Garden of Gethsemane in Jerusalem, where Jesus was crucified, the night before, when he was praying in the garden, drops of sweat came down, and apparently in that area there are lots of Easter lilies. So there's a lot of symbolism around them. And this is the blood that he has shed for mankind in order to live forever. So this is my first design, symbolizing the importance of Easter in the Christian Church. The cross, the crown of thorns, the palm leaves for Palm Sunday, and the lilies. Thank you very much. Easter is also a time where you celebrate spring. It's not only a religious festival, but for many people it is really the arrival of spring. Now, we have got Chinese New Year. To me, it's also a renewal and recycling. At Chinese New Year, we have a lot of pussy willow. For Chinese New Year, it symbolizes silver. This one is a beautiful example of it. For the Western society, pussy willow really is arrival of spring, because it's one of the first plants which sprouts and has the catkins coming out. So I keep telling people when Chinese New Year comes to an end, don't throw away, because you can use it for your Easter designs. But also, when it comes to buying for Chinese New Year, they come usually in very long stalks, stems, and you don't need the whole length. So what do you do it? They just cut it at the flower market and throw it. I rescued mine, and I made some containers. I'm sure you all will have learned how to do fencing, but just in case there are one or two amongst you who don't know it or have forgotten about it, you just have a couple of pieces of string. The paper covered wire is very good. It should be longer than this, because you need length in order to make a longer piece. You put it in, you twist and twist, and then you add the next stem, and you just have to make sure that you continue in a straight line so that it looks nice when you have finished, and just continue in that way. So here you have got a piece that I made a couple of years ago. You can see it is relatively straight, and you can put a container inside it, and you have got your lovely little fence. I've also done this one. I was thinking, I was trying to cut it here, but it just doesn't look quite so nice. I thought this would make a nice basket kind of container, where you could put your floral foam inside. And then I made this one in a similar sort of way, except I filled the end pieces with smaller things. And what I have done, I'm recycling my egg cartons. So inside there is the egg carton, the plastic egg carton, and I've had egg morning, noon and night, because they are my little containers here in order to make my little flower bed. I've already started with policias and with yellow kalanchoe, because the Easter colors are yellow and white primarily. And I've also got some nice chrysanthemum flowers. I went to the market a couple of days ago because I didn't have a chance yesterday, and I bought some narcissus and some tulips, and yesterday evening they still looked fine, but I was also disappointed this morning because they have fully opened, but they've also started to be discolored. But you can buy the narcissus plants. And I've taken a couple of bulbs out and cleaned the roots of it, because narcissus are very popular in Hong Kong, and you have the beautiful narcissus carvings. Somehow that didn't come to Singapore. You don't see them in the market, you don't see anybody crafting it, which is a pity because they are so beautifully done. Anyway, I'll just put them in between the eggs in the egg cup here, and because you can't be without narcissus in your design, I just put in a couple of false ones. Don't ever do that when you do a competition, because that would be disqualified. So a few more of the flowers, a bit more greenery to bring through the design. I've also added a couple of colored Easter egg, covered Easter eggs, and we talk about this in the next design. So, this is viburnum, very popular as a shrub in the UK. It's again beautiful because it comes into spring flower at this time of the year. Here you pay an arm and a leg. In the UK it almost grows like weeds. That's one of the things. When I was back in UK and having been used to having beautifully cheap orchids. In the UK, what you get a whole big bunch of about 30 stems, you would get 3 stems. So you always want what you haven't got. And here it's the same, the garden flowers which come for free, here you pay an arm and a leg for it. But sometimes it is actually nice to have the plant material from home. So I've very carefully broken the eggs open and then washed them and let them dry so that no fungus would form in them. This one is probably a little bit too long, and just a little bit more of the false narcissus. Yeah, at least they won't die on me, and I hope on the camera it will look okay. You see here? So you can create a lovely little window design, a lovely little garden by using up your pussy willow and not throw it away and recycle. I believe from what I heard from Hong Kong that you are all having a green campaign at the moment, and this is definitely one way that you can recycle your Chinese New Year materials and be kind to Mother Nature at the same time, by not always throwing just everything out and starting with new bought things. So here is spring. Thank you very much. So for my third design, it's a little bit more recycling, as well as telling you more about where does the name Easter comes from. There are many different explanations for it. The one I like best is that it comes from the goddess of Ostere, which was a Germanic goddess, a goddess of fertility. If you think about the name of Easter in German, it's called Ostern. So Ostere makes quite a lot of sense. Now, when Christianity was introduced to Northern Europe, they built it around already existed pagan festivities. So Ostere was the goddess of fertility, and her main pet was a rabbit. Now, you know, rabbits are very fertile and breed. We say about people who have too many children, they breed like rabbits. So that's how it comes that the rabbit has become an Easter symbol, particularly for commercial purposes. So what I first want to show you is how to do a different kind of fence. And here I have got a biscuit tin, and I have got when I was a child, if you had a lolly, ice lolly, that's what you would have got. Now you can buy packets full in order for craft purposes. So I've cut it and I stuck it onto here. You can see here it's still empty. I have got the end pieces here, so you can create your own little patterns with it. I used this glue, which comes from Japan. It's actually from Daiso, and you can, as far as I know, you can only get it in Japan. I knew it from a Japanese friend, and when I had a friend going to Japan, I asked her to bring me a few tubes, because obviously coming from Daiso, it's a lot cheaper than the Oasis Floral adhesive. It's slightly different in texture, it's much more runny, and you probably use a little bit more than you would use from the Oasis one, but it's very useful to have. So if you have a friend, if you want some of this glue, and a friend goes to Japan, or you have a friend in Japan, if you can't go yourself, have it sent to you. Can I just show you so that you can have a clear view of it? Is it the right way around? Yes, I think so. Okay. So I've also used this glue in order to use the cut pins from the procedure, because some of them fall off, or some of them you don't need, or some of them are too much at the bottom part, which you cut off. So I've started this polystyrene egg. You can use plastic eggs, you can actually blow out eggs and use that. So lots of different ways. And I just take the glue and I go along. I usually divide it into 4, and then I go along with the second one. And every time, best to close the tube and have it upright so it doesn't run out. And then just take your cut pins and glue them on. And you could probably use Yoo-hoo, but Yoo-hoo would take a lot longer to to dry. So you just continue up, and when you have finished that row, you do the same on the other side, and eventually the space gets smaller, and you use whatever fits in there. Okay, you can see it's quite simple to do it, and this is the finished effect. If you have a lot of time, you can be very specific about using smaller one in the narrower spaces, bigger one at the top. You can even make some pattern, but most of us don't have enough time. So if you have a look at this, you can use a satay stick to hold it. You could just have it as it is, or you can use it and put it in your design. So this is another way of recycling your pussy willow materials that you will have left, as well as your mini biscuit containers that you will have been given. So here I have prepared my bigger spring garden for you, and I have incorporated a little rabbit who is very happy amongst all the lovely flowers, and I will put my egg in there to go with the pussy willows that are also being used in this parallel vegetative design, which has got lilies for Easter, carnation for the color. As I mentioned earlier on, I would have preferred to have the narcissus or the tulips, but the carnations are also very beautiful in there. It has got the ornithogalum, which is very lovely because it starts growing and eventually the whole flower comes full. And for the blazing below, I have used the viburnum, which is the common viburnum, and as I mentioned earlier on, it does grow. It does open its flowers beautifully in spring, so it's very good for using as ground material. And because I don't have the tulips, I also use some chrysanthemums. So here you have also some pussy willow, and you can see how they are sprouting, so please don't throw them away, have them for Easter as well. I also used a few pieces of the kalanchoe just to have the yellow color coming through. So this is wishing you happy Easter with my Easter bunny. Oh, this one needs to be this way around. So this is a spring with Easter bunny and his fluffy egg. Thank you. In design 3, we decided on how it was that the Easter bunny was bringing the eggs. Now I would like to show you some of the samples of what you can do with eggs. Because the most economic as well as the most eco-friendly one is if you are using fresh eggs. So what do? I have this little gadget here, which I prick the egg with. It has got a needle inside there, and by pushing it, it pricks it, and then I use a nail to make the egg bigger. You need to do it on both sides of the egg. And then you can see here the holes there. Then you need to blow very hard for the egg to come out on the other end. You need to wash it, rinse it, and let it dry. And you probably will do that over a few weeks leading up to Easter in order to have a collection of it. Now this particular one, I put a ribbon through, and I used the Easter paint, especially made for this purpose, and marbled it. On this egg, I used a stencil, which you can get, and made a decoration with it in this way. In Europe, there are so many different ways. This one is actually a sleeve you put over the egg, and then you put it in boiling water, and the sleeve clings to the egg, and it makes it quite strong. This is again a real one. You can find wooden eggs that are beautifully painted, in many places. Many countries are doing different things. You can get ceramic eggs, also very beautiful. And of course, the best eggs that we all like are the chocolate eggs. The most precious one that I have is this one. It's a real egg, beautifully painted. It was given to me by Esther de Souza, a long-term member of the Hong Kong Flower Club, who unfortunately is no longer with us. So this is very, very much treasured. She also gave me a half egg which was broken, but there you can actually see how thin the eggshell is, but it was beautifully painted. It's such a treasure for me. A way of making your own decorations, and this one is the one I learned in Hong Kong with II, is washi eggs. This is it's a lengthy process. You have to be quite patient, but it's well worth it because they last forever. It has about 6 layers of varnish once you have actually stuck the paper down. A simpler method is tearing up pieces of washi paper, just like this, into smaller pieces. And then you use white glue or all-purpose glue, school glue, depending on what you get it. I think it's very much the same sort of glue, and you very thinly spread it over the egg. This one is a plastic egg, and you can also have the polystyrene eggs where you can do this too. So you put it over with a brush, and you use your little pieces and you stick them down and brush over a little bit more until you finished. And you could also, as in this case, I put a satin stick inside, and I also came down with the paper so that when you put this into your foam, you won't see the satin stick. So these are some of the ways. Sorry, I forgot this one. This is actually done with napkin paper. Not napkin. It's the top layer of the napkin paper, and you tear it up just like with a washi egg. It's of course much thinner, therefore it's easier in a way to put it on, but it also tears very easily. So the layer of glue that you put on has to be very thin in order to avoid that. And then you have to let it dry. That takes probably overnight or a whole day, and then you put varnish over it. What I do is I use nail varnish because it already has its own brush with it. So these are some of the ways that you can produce different Easter eggs. Now here I have made a garland because in Germany there are lots of traditions on how to use your Easter decoration, and this would be one of them. It's the one that the eggs that I did the sleeve around it, and in between it has got folded sections of the chefflora. Of course in Germany they wouldn't have the chefflora, they would use other leaves. But the one thing that is particularly important in Germany is the Easter tree. So here I have made a container. The steps where this is CDs came in this, and I thought I don't want to throw this away. This would make quite a good container for flower arranging, but of course you wouldn't want to use it that way. So I used the same method as with the eggs and covered it with the paper. So again, use the glue, put it on, take the pieces of paper, stick it down, use a little bit more glue, because as you overlap the paper, they also have to be wet. So you just continue. You could be very careful and make a proper pattern, but the quickest way is just to put them down. Here I have done another one with a different paper, and I have done it a little bit more because these are very light and they could easily topple over. So I fill the bottom part with plaster of Paris. You could use cement or something equally heavy that gives you the stability. I also used the paper to color coordinate the eggs. So the same method was used for this. This was actually a container where chocolate Easter eggs came in, and I kept it last year, and I suddenly thought I could use it for this tree. So I covered it with the paper. I had the bottom part filled, and then I filled it with dry floral foam in order to take the tree. Of course, you could have filled the whole container with plaster of Paris or cement, but if you put the tree or your branches into that, then you can't take them out and reuse them in a different way. And then I used reindeer moss to cover the top, and I inserted the tree and I added the Easter eggs to it. They have got, some of them are plastic eggs which I bought, and they already had the nylon string on it. If they have a little loop as these have got, you could also cut one of those pipe cleaners and have a little section and just go through the loop and hang it up this way. Yellow is the Easter color, so you would also add a little bit more Easter to it. And I got this lovely rabbit when I visited Hong Kong a couple of years ago. I really fell in love with her. So I'll put her here to guard her Easter tree, and add a few more of the Easter eggs to make her even happier. So this is my Easter demonstration. I hope I have given you some ideas of what you can do, and I would like to thank you again very much for having me to share some of the ideas with you. I wish all of you a very happy Easter, especially those of you who celebrate traditional religious Easter. I would like to thank Angela for helping me with the video, and all of you who will do the same in Hong Kong. I wish you a very happy time, and I look forward to when I can visit you as soon as the travel is allowed again. Bye bye.